Kendall Briles is officially out of TCU. All we're waiting on is the announcement from South Carolina themselves that he's got the job. Oh yeah, it's Locked On Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? I'm Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, host of your favorite one-stop shop for everything TCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, but you know it better as the Locked On Horned Frogs podcast. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. When I say it's all TCU athletics, it's not just football. We'll talk a little bit of actual college football, big picture Texas Tech college football playoffs at the end of today. We're going to talk Jamie Dixon because Sarah has a very interesting stat that you may not even realize is true, but we kick this thing off with Kendall Briles. And honestly, the moment that I heard about Kendall Briles' pending departure, potential departure that has now become unofficially official, the first person I thought about was Sarah Smith, because there was one person who kept pounding the table saying it was time for Kendall to leave. Let me say this. I'm glad it happened this way, because I do think there are some things that are good about Kendall. I'm not going to call myself a Kendall Briles apologist, but I do think that I'm not as jaded to him as others because I don't have years of experience that others have been leaning on. It was frustrating this year, but I didn't put everything on him. I kind of like that he was able to just find a new job and move on, because it took out the pressure of, are they going to finally make the decision? He did it for TCU.
Yeah.
He was able to step away, because I don't know. Everybody talks about, would there have been changes? Should there have been changes? Well, we will never have to know if they would have done it. We can argue whether they should have done it, but it's happening. And I think that's the interesting thing, is Kendall Briles is set up to go to South Carolina to be their offensive coordinator. It was essentially announced today. It was like, I think Stephen Johnson from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram said that all sources are saying it's happening. On Friday, it was, hey, there's interest.
Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday became, it's going to happen. It's happening. They're finalizing the agreement. So I'll give this to you. I know you were pretty happy when the news broke.
No, I was. When I saw it on Friday, I was just, please be real. Please be real. And now I think it is real. And, I hate seeing, I know I've spoken about that I don't like him, but I kind of hate seeing that coaches get fired and it gets blown up. Oh, they got fired. Because I just feel like that creates a lot of drama. So I think Kendall Briles leaving on his own terms to go to South Carolina, it is a good move. It's drama-free. And also, TCU's former AD, Donati, is there. So that's probably a big reason why he went. And maybe Briles is a good fit for South Carolina's offense, whatever they want to do. But I think it'll be really good for this TCU team to bring in somebody new who can kind of bring in some fresh eyes to this team, kind of like how, Sonny Dykes came in his first year, TCU did super well. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I know you said that you weren't super against him because, you haven't experienced the pain of him for a while. Mm-hmm. So I just think I think it's a good, fresh change. I think TCU's offense, we kind of saw what they're capable of when the offensive coordinator is actually, encouraging run the ball. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to see out of the next offensive coordinator. So goodbye, Kendall Briles. Praying that we find somebody better than you, because I don't know if I can take a sorry offensive coordinator anymore.
Well, he'll only be a one-year solution if that's happening. Not to be too far ahead, but if the offense is bad again, I think that the team's going to be bad again. And I don't think that I don't think that Dykes is going to survive that. I think that this is a situation where you need to have an impact hire right away, or at least a stay afloat hire. But when I say I'm not jaded, I mean in the sense where I thought he needed to be out of TCU, but I feel a sense of relief from everyone else that I don't necessarily feel, right? Like I don't have the relief of, oh, this guy is gone. Like I didn't have it. And I think some of that comes from years of the same issues. I only saw 1 year of that issue, close and personal, every single week, 60 minutes every week, right? I watched TCU, but to watch them as close as I am now, you get to see more of the blemishes. But for you guys, it's probably scars that you have. But I'll say this. When it comes to Kendall Briles, the difficult part about replacing him is he's one of those guys where you can absolutely get worse. You can absolutely get worse than Kendall Briles, but you can also get better. And that's a very tough position to be in because I think it breeds complacency. Because you see a guy who's getting you a bunch of yards, but you're not scoring enough points. That to me is the difficult part about addressing Kendall Briles and the need to have him go. Because everybody, it could be worse. Shut up. I don't like when people tell me it could be worse. Stop telling me things could be worse. Okay? If you ever see me and something's wrong, don't tell me it could be worse. That's not going to cheer me up. That does not solve the current issue. Okay? If I'm crying, don't tell me someone had it worse than me. Okay, well, now we both have it bad. Right? But anyway, tangent over. When it comes to Kendall Briles, it's a situation where, in my opinion, a move was uncertain for the reasons I just gave of he's good enough in a lot of categories. The problem is he's not good enough in arguably the most important, not even arguably, in the most important category. That's the difficult part about it.
I don't think TCU football wants to be good enough. I don't think any team just wants to be good enough. TCU football wants to be great, and that ceiling is a little bit higher now, just kind of depending on who they hire. And I know some floating chatter around Briles leaving. I've seen some people talk about, is Hoover going to go with him? I've seen some pictures on Twitter where Josh Hoover is taking pictures with Briles' whole family, and so people are a little maybe concerned that Hoover could follow Briles to South Carolina. I mean, maybe that's no shade.
No, Sarah. Don't tell me about people. You done brought it up now. Are you concerned?
No, honestly, because allegedly Tennessee offered him $1 million to go play for them, and he declined it to stay at TCU. So I'm kind of hoping that loyalty will remain. But if Josh Hoover really likes him and he doesn't see himself at TCU anymore, then I guess I guess it's not off the table. It's not off the table.
Dykes versus Briles. He did reject Dykes once at SMU. I don't know. I can't remember the story of, I know he tried to recruit him. He said, no, I don't want to go to SMU. And he went to Fort Worth. He goes, oh, yeah, I'll go. So I don't know how much he likes Briles. I don't know how much he likes Dykes.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that Hoover, Sonny tried to recruit Hoover to SMU. And so Hoover.
Made that up now. Don't tell me I'm just talking. I don't think so. I don't think I'm just talking. Go ahead. I'll check it. But
he would want to go to SMU anyway. Let's be real.
Let's see. I'll have to find it. I hope I didn't just hear that and get caught on that
is pretty funny though. If he didn't want to play for Dykes at SMU and then actually ended up playing for Dykes at TCU,
there we go on Dan Campbell's Texas Football. Former Rockwall Heath standout Josh Hoover turned down Sonny Dykes at SMU before committing to him when Dykes took over as head coach of the TCU Horned Frogs. So it's one of those things where it's just very interesting because we see a lot of players commit to a coach. That's clear.
Yeah, but in today's day and age, recruits are kind of going where they're getting the biggest bag of money. So
we'll see. We'll see. This is fascinating. This is something we'll have to get back to probably tomorrow, Friday. It's going to be ongoing. It's going to be ongoing. And if he opts out of the bowl game, that will say a lot. But let's push forward. Let's continue to look because I want to move the basketball, and we're going to do this more often. Sarah's not leaving just because basketball season is coming up. She will move to a different day. I don't know what day we're going to do just yet, but we'll do a different day. But I want to talk about an interesting stat that you have around Jamie Dixon that I didn't realize, and I wonder if other people have put this together as well. I'll look at that, or you'll look at that as you continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I like to make money. Sorry. I like to make a little bit of extra cash. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about TCU. Maybe I want to go put some money down on TCU, either for or against them. I know a lot of people made some money on that BYU game because the spread ended up getting smaller than expected. So there's a bunch of different ways. People probably felt good about Cincinnati after beating Houston, and they went and made some money for the Horned Frogs winning. So there's different ways to do it, but I like the NFL the most. Maybe you're Cowboys. Maybe you are a Raiders fan. Oh, it's going ugly for you. But if you keep betting against the Raiders, you'll keep making money. That's just what people tell me. I didn't come up with that. But you know what? Anywhere you're going to do it, whether for the Raiders, against the Raiders, for the Cowboys, against the Cowboys, for the Frogs, against the Frogs, it's always going to be on FanDuel. So make sure you're going to FanDuel right now to make every moment more, because there's every single sport and you can place your live bets at any time. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Now, we've talked football. Now we get to talk a little bit of basketball. Big 12 play is not far away, Sarah. It's right around the corner. And one thing that you've pointed out, and we talked about it before, is the lack of success of Jamie Dixon in conference play specifically. So let's float this stat up here, because he has zero winning seasons in conference play as the TCU head coach. Please elaborate on why this stood out to you.
This stands out to me just because it's it's kind of ridiculous. You've been TCU's head coach for around 10 years. You don't have a single winning conference season, not even by one game, not a single one. It's ridiculous, because Jamie Dixon sells us this idea that TCU is this elite basketball team with the potential to win Big 12 championships, to have deep runs on March Madness. And that is just not something we have ever seen. In my 4 years at TCU, I never saw it. Something interesting that I just saw, I was kind of comparing, TCU's points per game. I know preseason, I don't really think it matters that much, but still, TCU's points per game compared to someone who's undefeated right now, which is Oklahoma State. TCU's averaging like 13 points per game. They're averaging almost 20. I think it was around 18. And I was curious, and I went back to TCU's like 2016, 2017.
Hold on. What do you mean? 13 points per game? Who?
David Punch.
Oh, he's
averaging 13 points per game. I just meant like individual players. So like your top scorer is averaging
I'm with you
that many points per game. And so I was kind of curious to see, what TCU's previous like leading scorers averaged on this team. I think since 2016-2017 season, only one time a player averaged 18 or more points per game, and that was Mike Miles in 2021 and 2022. In the 2022-2023 season, he had 17.9 points per game. All the other seasons have been below that. And I think it's interesting because TCU has always, at least when I've been keeping up with TCU basketball, they've always struggled with free throws. They've always struggled with three-point shooting. And three-point shooting is very, very essential in basketball in general. It's such a fast-paced game. Making threes can climb you back from a 10-point deficit, or even or even extend your lead, entering close or trying to close out a game. So I just think it's interesting. And like the way that Jamie Dixon runs his offense is a 4-out pick and roll situation. It's not very creative, which I think makes it very easy for other teams to kind of prepare for and defend well. The Big 12 is one of the top basketball conferences, period. You got Houston, you got Arizona, you got even BYU and Baylor. So there is a lot to compete with, but why college basketball specifically is my favorite is kind of because, those top programs don't really matter. If you're showing up on that court, it will translate to wins. And sometimes I just don't feel like TCU is showing up, and their offense just isn't that great, and their three-point shooting isn't that great, and your free throws aren't that great. And that is a recipe for not having a winning season.
Yeah. And you know what? Not having a winning conference season in 10 years, extremely surprising, right? He's had some success. So I'll ask you this. When you think about the peak over the last decade, when you think about the peak in TCU men's basketball, what year do you think about? I'm assuming it's probably a year you were in school, but what year do you think of? And I'll tell you what they did that season.
Oh, let me think. Probably when I was watching. Obviously, I know when Desmond Bain played at TCU, that was a couple years before I went there. And I wasn't watching at the time. Probably the 2022-23 season. I think TCU was playing in the second round of March Madness against Arizona, I want to believe. And it was super close. It was like a 1-point game or something crazy. I think it went into overtime. I can't totally remember, but that
year they went 22-13. They went 9-9 in conference play. They went too deep in the tournament, like you mentioned, and they were a 6 seed who ended up taking on the number 2 seed in Arizona. So it was a game that they weren't favored to win. That was also the year that you just mentioned they had a 20-point score. Coincidence? I don't think so. I don't think so. But what are we to judge Dixon off of? If it were up to you and you're thinking, all right, we're going to judge Dixon's pass or fail meter based off of this metric, what metric do you think you'll point to? I have the overall records, I have the conference records, and I have the postseason play. I just want to know what it is that you're valuing so I can tell you how it's played out over Dixon's career.
I mean, it's got to be the conference records. The fact that TCU hasn't had a winning conference record under Jamie Dixon. Like, it's such a baffling thing to me. Just like I was just saying, he's selling us this idea that TCU is an elite basketball program. Well, where is that? Show us that. Show us that we're in the same league as Houston. Show us that TCU is in the same league as Arizona. Show us that. I feel like I'm not seeing that. Maybe there's one game where we see that and 2 games where we see that, but it's not consistent. And I know even the best basketball teams lose games, but it just seems like TCU is just in this area of mid. And just like we were talking about with Kendall Briles, they're good enough. Mm-hmm. But I don't think no one wants just to be good enough. TCU basketball wants to be great. And I feel like I haven't seen that.
I think last year maybe is a point where it's interesting. So his first year he gets there. He wins the NIT. Year 1, they win the NIT. Last year, they go to the semis. I'll be interested to see if this is a jumping off point because the first year he was there, they went 24-25. He's had multiple 20-win seasons. So I see why there's a bit of love. I see why there's a bit of affection towards him, right? And that's why I want to ask, what do we judge off of? Because I like having those conversations of this is how I view this person, this is how I view that person. Mm-hmm. But what's the criteria that we're using? For you, it's conference play. And in conference play, he's had at best a 500 record. That's very interesting. And I feel like 21 seasons for someone else may feel like it's valuable. So I just want to ask that. And then it's an interesting thing. So postseason play, he's been as high of a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. He's never made it out the second round, though, at TCU. He's never made out the second round. So if you're going with conference play, you have that metric. If you want to go with postseason play, you have that. I've already detailed his NIT success, so I don't want to skip past that again. It's interesting. Poor conference record, but overall, most wins in a 9-year span of any TCU 9-year stretch. It's so fascinating when you break down certain things, but like you said, the out-of-conference schedule for you doesn't hold as much weight. Now let's push forward, because we're getting into postseason play and we're talking about the big dogs. And that specifically is Texas Tech. In the college football playoffs, what does it mean for the Big 12 if Texas Tech has success? Let's answer that question and also look at their route to success as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. All right, fellas, I know you don't really want to talk about it, but that's why I'm going to do it for you. Most men aren't bringing this up, but we absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life, it doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rugiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. When you're ready to get going, Rugiet is going to help you get going. It's a next generation prescription treatment created to support both brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when that moment is here. When it's time to be in the bedroom with your woman, it's not the time to say, hey, had a rough day. You've had a rough day for a week straight. Rugiet Ready is the way to go. So if you've been thinking about taking that next step, now is the time. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready, and give her the Christmas gift that she's been waiting for. As we continue and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. I have Sarah Smith here with me, breaking down everything TCU, but we don't just stop at the Horned Frogs. We like to talk about the Big 12 in general. Texas Tech is currently in the playoffs, the lone team in the Big 12. I'm going to say this right now. If Texas Tech is able to win this, the Big 12 has now been stamped. If Texas Tech is able to win this, the Big 12 now moves into that conversation with the SEC and the Big 10. I know they're not going to be looked at as having the multitude of teams, and it's going to be years before they close that gap, but they have to move closer to the Big 10 and SEC and farther from the ACC. This is just facts. If Texas Tech is able to come in and win it all, you should get 2 teams from the Big 12 next year. I know it doesn't always work that way. And when Clemson was good, people looked at the ACC as just being Clemson. But the truth is, Arizona State last year had a great game with Texas when nobody really believed in them. No one believed Arizona State would do that. This year you have BYU, who was a fringe team. If Texas Tech wins next year and BYU has the same exact season, everything plays out the same, BYU will make it because the Big 12 will be more respected. At this point, conference supremacy, conference pride becomes one of the largest factors in postseason play when it comes to college football. This isn't the pros. The NFC, I don't care who wins. If the NFC champion wins it all. No. In college ball, you want your Big 12 teams to win every bowl game. You want your Big 12 teams to win championships. You want more prestige for your conference because it does have a trickle-down effect that goes beyond strictly monetary value. So I'm rooting for Texas Tech. And also, break up a little bit of the monotony. I'm rooting for Tech in Indiana. I got Indiana. That's what I'm picking. But I'm rooting for Tech as well in the sense that no one believed in these 2 teams coming into the season. So I'll be interested to see what they do as the playoffs begin.
No, me too. And I'm so excited for Texas Tech. I think they have a lot of momentum going into the playoff. I mean, they just embarrassed BYU for the second time. Yeah. That Big 12 championship, their defense was just perfect. BYU had so many turnovers, and I think Texas Tech's defense, their strong defense, is really going to help them against, these SEC and Big 10 teams. So I know I've been a Texas Tech sympathizer since the beginning of the season. So now I'm glad to see their success finally come to fruition. And I love Indiana. I love their quarterback. He is so funny and he is so passionate about his team. And like, what is not like to root for out of that team? Just I absolutely love
the coach. I love the coach too.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, Texas Tech, we could potentially see Indiana and Texas Tech play each other in the Peach Bowl. But that's if James, Texas Tech, they're playing the winner of James Madison and Oregon.
So they're playing Oregon.
Hey, you never know. You never know. I love to root for an underdog. And James Madison isn't in the college football playoff for no reason.
Yes, they are.
Never know.
They are. They are in there for no reason. I don't mean to be mean to James Madison, but the ACC is terrible. The ACC is so bad. Virginia should have just won. Virginia should have
First of all, Chandler Morris is their quarterback. They're not winning anything with that guy. Chandler Morris did play for TCU for a while, and that was horrible.
I'm aware. My
mental health was bad during that time.
Well, I feel like the ACC was in a very bad situation. They're in a very bad situation, and Duke won the freaking national or conference championship. And with Duke winning the national conference championship, with Duke winning that, there was no room for the ACC champion. They still got Miami in, luckily. But there's 2 G5 teams in here. I don't know.
It could surprise you. It could surprise you. You never know.
What day is that? December 20th,
20th
Central Time. All right, we'll be back the week after that. We'll see if I've been surprised, and I'll eat my words if I am. But Texas Tech is going to play Oregon. Texas Tech, just like Arizona State, is in the worst position in anybody in the college football playoffs. Being that 4 seed is terrible because then you have to face the winner of 5 versus 12. So essentially, you're going to face, and for Arizona State, you're facing probably a top 4 team because at that time, conference champions just got guaranteed buys, right? So that was just how it happened. That's not the case anymore. Texas Tech still earned their bye, but they're going to have to play Oregon or James Madison. But they're going to have to play Oregon if you ask me. That's a tough one. Oregon has not had a great time against good teams, though. They played Indiana, and it wasn't pretty. So We'll see what that's like. That'll be such a fun game. You knock off Oregon, Big 12 just took a step up. So it's the worst position, but it's also a very advantageous position if you are a believer of proving yourself like I am. I believe in proving yourself. So I think it's an interesting path, an unfortunate path, but then you may have to face Indiana right after. So you go probably facing a 5 seed, facing the best non-bye team, and then you're going to have to face the best team most likely if they get past an Alabama or an Oklahoma. It's some great games week 1. I don't know. What's your final thoughts on Texas Tech, though, Sarah?
Yeah, I don't know. I just listening to the coach after the game just kind of reminds me a lot of the way that Indiana plays. Texas Tech coach after was like, these players love each other. They want to win for each other. It seems like that locker room is so glued in and so ready for what is to come. And after their Big 12 champions, they embarrassed BYU. That's a lot of positive, strong momentum going into facing these teams. And, BYU just is not a bad team at all. They just played a bad game. And so sometimes it just goes like that. So I'm rooting for them. I think they definitely have the offensive and defensive potential to beat these teams. But I think that, Texas Tech's defense is going to be tough for anybody that plays the Red Raiders. I think that's just an objective statement. So honestly, when it comes to Tech, I think it could go either way. And I'm hoping that they make it to the championship to put some respect on the Big 12's name. I know the SEC and the Big 10 always get, the bias of having historically great teams. Well, here's an opportunity for the Big 12 to make that, to kind of rewrite their story and be like, okay, well, we're here too. We're ready to compete too, just like with you guys. So that's kind of how I feel about them.
I love it. I love it. We'll see you next week. Tomorrow, I don't know what angle we're going to take, but we will be taking some Kendall Briles angle. Maybe we'll talk about Dykes calling plays because he said he's probably going to do that, or he might do that. So I don't know, but we'll get into something Briles related, just about where we stand. Maybe it'll finally be official, but as it stands today, it's unofficially official. We all know it. It's the worst kept secret. It hasn't yet been revealed. The only thing that we do know is that you will be back here tomorrow. In the meantime, and also thank you for bearing with me yesterday. Yesterday's episode didn't come out till very late because we had a lot of technical difficulties. Hopefully that's fixed for today. But in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.